Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Majors and Quinn Booksellers. I want to thank everyone for coming out on this winter evening to hear Dr. Abdi. Before we get started, I want to thank the people that helped make this event possible. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Jamal at the Savari Express in the Midtown Market on Chicago and Lake for bringing such wonderful food to us tonight. Thank you, Jamal. And we wouldn't have a crowd here tonight if we hadn't had help with promotion from a few different groups, starting with Minnesota Literacy Council, also the American Refugee Committee, and also tonight we have the Mogadishu Times here filming it and reporting on it, and we're just very happy. Thank you guys for coming tonight. Dr. Hawa Abdi is a human rights activist, lawyer, and doctor specializing in gynecology. She's the founder of the Dr. Hawa Abdi Foundation, which runs a hospital and school in one of the largest internationally displaced persons camps in Somalia, offering sanctuary to nearly 90,000 people. She has been called the fiercest, most compassionate frontline humanitarian and doctor on the planet. She has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, and she is now the author of a brand new book. We are very happy to have Dr. Hawa Abdi here and her daughter, Deco, and Sarah Robbins. So please put your hands together for keeping hope alive.
Good evening, friends. Thank you for coming. I'm very happy staying tonight with you. Thank you, U.S. government who allowed me to enter their country, because we Somalis people, last 23 years, were isolated. In our country, our government collapsed many years ago. We have suffered so much. Many of our people fled abroad from their country, and who remaining also were suffering. Now, we hope that everything will be okay in Somalia, and get friends who rebuild, to help to rebuild our country.
Thank you so much for coming in support of Dr. Abdi and her foundation. And Deco, my name is Sarah. I am the co-author of this book. I've been working with Dr. Abdi and her family for the last 2 years or so on this incredible story that we want to just give you a taste of tonight. So we thought that since the way that we worked on the book was in the conversation, that instead of having, reading from a little part of it, we would have a conversation tonight and sort of give you, some of you are very, very familiar with her story and her work, and some of you may not know very much about it. So we thought we'd give you sort of a little taste of her incredible life story. So I wanted to just sort of ask a couple questions of Dr. Abdi and also a couple questions of Deco too. So they can kind of explain in their own words what's in the book. So I thought we would start kind of in the beginning a little bit, some kind of background about a little bit of Somali history, and Dr. Abdi's story in many ways is also the story of Somalia. She was 13 in 1960 when Somalia gained independence, and so her sort of life trajectory is kind of along the trajectory of Somalia's sort of rise and fall. So in 1964, you got a scholarship to attend medical school in the Soviet Union, which was something very rare for a girl, a Somali girl at the time. So I wanted to ask you why you decided that you wanted to be a doctor, and what it was like to study in the Soviet Union and then to come back to become Somalia's first female gynecologist.
Thank you. At that time, in Somalia, always we Somali are different. Our women has freedom to work, to study, and to go everywhere they want. Our women, they were fighting for the independence. They built their governments. But that time, it was very difficult to send a girl abroad of the country. But my father, he was educated, and he has 4 daughters. He was thinking that his daughters can do whatever men do. And he allowed me to go abroad in Soviet Union at that time, very difficult, in 1964, 43 or 45 years ago. I am now a doctor 42 years, plus 7, it is 49 years before. My mother died in big, or that time, Martini Hospital, and that was an Italian doctor who cannot explain why my mother, what she has. I was so pained. When my mother died, I feel a pain, and I decided to be a doctor to avoid other Somali children that pain I felt. That's why I went.
So you came back and established a practice in some of Mogadishu's biggest hospitals, sort of working with a huge number of women. So there were so few women working as doctors that you were really beloved. And in 1983, you decided to move to the suburbs, so to speak, so out of the city and to near Afgoye, and established a one-room clinic on your family farm to help some of the women in the bush, smaller villages who couldn't make it to Mogadishu, to help them deliver. So you established this one-room clinic, and the women were coming by the hundreds, literally, to see you and to deliver at your clinic, and you were sort of juggling your children, work in the city, work at the clinic, and this went on for several years until the government collapsed in 1991, and then things began to change. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about that time, and to ask Deco too. Deco, at the time, you were 15. So how did your life change when Somalia began to change?
We did not like a change because we had a stable government, but collapsed our government, and everything turned in a bad way. So many women, we Somalis, most of our population lives in rural area. Most of rural area, there is no road, no car. At night, maybe the woman in labor. And there is no road, and no car. So I decided to be near to them, that they can come with a donkey cars. But after few minutes, Mogadishu collapsed, our government collapsed, and many people fled from Mogadishu, searching a safe place. All my friends began to come in our area. My grandma had a farmland, big area in Lafole Hospital, Lafole place where I live it, and I built a one-room clinic of hospital. So one-room clinic of hospital began to be a large, till now is 400 beds capacity hospital. And IDPs now came in 2007, 90,000 people. We managed it, and we tried to make our place peaceful and safe place, because we tried to eradicate tribal separation of the society.
don't think so. We can finish the 30 years of life or legacy of my mother in an hour of this discussion. Thank you for everyone who's coming. I think it's, thank you for Sarah for asking me the questions, and it's, of course, it was a very hard time being a teenager and you have to go to school, there's nothing, you have to stay home, and my mom tells me in the morning, you know, you're not going to school today, and we had the final. And I said, no, I'm going to go to school. She said, no, you're not going to school. Okay. You never say no to my mother. You just say, okay, then you do what you want to do. So I'm sneaking, I'm taking little buses we call Asi. So, and it's a beauty when I was in Somalia young, wearing, you know, school clothes, you get a free ride. You know, when you have your Darjala, what you call Somali, the Somali, so you stand in the street, you know, you get a free ride. I'm going to my school and school is closed. Our dean was there and it's like, why you come here? What's going on? You know, he's yelling at me. And he knew he came that day because we have a group of students who's coming far away, like me, Mogadishu, Afgoye, La Fole. We were coming different. We were not living in Mogadishu, so we didn't know what happened at the night time in Mogadishu. So he waited, he said, you're not going back to your home, your families have to come get you. I'm not going to allow you to leave. So my school was next to Radio Mogadishu, so it was very shelling was going on. So we were sitting there, it's like, we were all saying, all my classmates and friends, like, the movie is better. You know, when you see the gunshot and fighting, it's way better in the movie. This is scary. We were running one classroom to another classroom because every time it's shelling happening, we didn't know what to do. So fortunately, I think my uncle come get me with my mother, and I went there, and I never went back to Mogadishu since last year, because we were living outside, and I used to go. I used to love Mogadishu. It was my school. When we moved in La Fola, I never liked it when I was a kid. I was like, no, I want to go back to Mogadishu. But I think we did well so far. We survived, and we tried to save many lives. Actually, my mom, and we were there for her, and I think you will read this wonderful book of different parts of her life. Most of Somalis know she's a savior, she's a doctor, but when you read this book, you will see how human she is and how so many suffering steps of her life she went through. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So I thought I'd just ask maybe one or two more questions. So as you know, and the story is in the book, and a lot of you are familiar with it. We also want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. So you know, so the story goes that over 20 plus years of civil war, more and more people came until, as you were saying, you had 90,000 people living in your backyard. And you know, one thing that happened is certain you know, different groups sort of rose and fell in the area and had control over the land, sort of different names. You know, as we've talked about, many of them were the same people, sort of forming different groups and different names. But you know, in 2010, the group that was in charge of the area was named Hizbul Islam, and they had a real problem with you and what you had created. They had a real problem with your hospital and your camp that was really a city. They thought that, you know, a woman couldn't possibly run something like this, was not qualified to run something like this. So they came to you and they demanded that you hand it over to them. So I was hoping that you could tell that story of May of 2010 and what happened when they came to you.
Minor, there is not religion minor, there is not a Somali minor. To hand over women and men are equal. They have right to have their property. There is no religion right that women cannot have a property. But they come to me and said, you are woman and this place now is coming as a state. So we are men, we are young, we have to run. And I say, I'm sorry, you are men, you are young, but what you have done, your society, what you have done, they have never done nothing except killing. So I refused it. They went back after a few weeks, they attacked our place with 750 militiamen with their technical cars. They have put heavy shelling in the hospital where the women in labor, where the children malnutrition are admitted. That was disaster. Then my daughters were abroad. They call all the media, BBC Somali service, they call me and I tell what was going on. I put the phone with a heavy shelling and I say, do you hear what's happening in our place? Women in labor, children malnutrition. There is no military base. And those people attacked us. They say, why you don't want to defend? I said, we have nothing to defend for them. They are more stronger than us. So they hear that. They come, me and my nurses, they took all our mobile phone and they kidnapped us. They took us and they put in one room for 10 hours. But Somali diaspora and inside Somalia, they already were aware what was happening in our place. So they called the boss of that group and say, what are you doing? Who are you fighting? Women in labor and children malnutrition? Release these people. And they release us. I thank my community, my Somali people, IDBs who was there. They have done demonstration. And after 10 hours, they release us. But I stopped working at that time. When I stopped, Somali media come in our place. They ask the IDBs, what was happening in your place? They said we were having a school, we were having free health care, we were having water, and those Hezbollah Islam attacked us. And everything now closed. Yep. They come to me and said, open. I say, I'm not going to open until you will write for me apology letter.
We all freaking out and we begging her, you know, they release you, we're happy, we don't care what's happening with them, you know, we don't care, nobody died, everybody's alive, please mama, you know, leave them alone. And she says, no, I'm not going to leave them alone, I'm not going to open the school, I'm not going to open the hospital, unless they write an apology letter. Okay, they will write one. She said, no, I need 3. One for the community, one for myself, and one for MSF. You know, Doctors Without Borders were working with us. So, and they wrote it. She got 3 apology letters. She made a history again, because it never happened everywhere in the world, I think so, when the militia man comes, attacks you, and they release you and you demand an apology letter. So I wouldn't be able to do it. I admire you for that. And like, we were begging, please don't do it. And she says, no, I will die with dignity. I don't care. They have to understand what they have done. Suddenly she became a mother, a teacher, a grandmother. She wanted to teach them what they did was wrong. And we was like, we are happy, you're alive. That's all what we know. So it was amazing, and thank you for being strong, for all of us.
So the last question that I wanted to ask just very quickly is, so that was 2010, and it's been, a few years since then. It's been, the last year has been a really bright year for Somalia. So it's, you've seen very dark times, a couple of which we've talked about, but, recently, there's more stability in the area. You don't have the same fear that you did in 2010, and so I wanted to ask you quickly to tell everyone what's going on in your camp today.
In my camp today, more peaceful. Hunger, the same place. People still hunger. They have nothing. but most of them, they co-evacuate.
I think we have a brighter future. I'm lucky to run and be happy to run this foundation in this time, because I'm much luckier than my mom. We just had a government, as you Somalis, half of this room are aware. We just elected our first time in 22 years. There's a stable government, and which is very mature. Still, they are only 7 months old. That's what I want to say. They don't even have the time to. They are crawling now. They're not running. But I think we have to support no matter what they're doing, and it's getting better. We're trying to. The goal of our foundation is the sustainability of the people and taking their leadership into their own hands. We don't want them to be dependent on us. We don't want to have 90,000 people living in our backyard. We are doctors. We want to have the best hospital in Somalia, the best hospital in East Africa. That's our goal. This all being a village and city and school and chaos came with the necessity of the war in Somalia. So since we have stability, we're trying to resettle people. If they have their homes, we're trying to support them to go back. We just started a smart farming system, agriculture. We're doing our schools open. We had first library built. We don't have this much books, but we're trying to deliver as much as we can. And we have internet set up, so we're also going to have a long distance training in internet for our teenagers. We're giving them skills. It's huge opportunity. And because of the era we're living in gives us that opportunity. We are in the era of technology. We have young people who are very passionate and want to do a difference. One of them is sitting here, Other Qamar. I called her 2011 and I told her, I need a nurse. We're going to do first time training in Somalia. That we are bringing every Somali in every corner. And we did it. We bring 38 doctors and nurses, no matter which corner, Somaliland, Puntland, we didn't care. We wanted to unite the society by healthcare. And we did it, and we made it. And the Somali doctors from Minneapolis, we have nurses coming from here. We didn't need a translator or anybody else. The foundation on the finance was running by Amud Foundation, was running by Hawa, Abdi Foundation, Everything was done by Somali, and it went beautifully. So I think we have the power, and we need to use the help of our allies, people who want to help us. We have to tell what we need. If we don't fix what we broken, nobody can do for us. You guys have to realize. You have the opportunity, you have the help. You have Minnesota, the beautiful, I used to live in North Dakota, by the way. And then the people are very generous. People want to help you, to give you opportunity, welcome you their homes. So use this opportunity and make a difference. And use the opportunity of technology. I do talk so much, sorry for this.
So we'll stop talking for a little while, but we would love to open up the floor to questions if anyone has any.
So now it's your turn. How did you get involved? And when did you get involved? And why did you get involved?
My story is coming next. So I am a magazine writer. I work as a freelancer, but I tell mostly women's stories, and I work with a lot of different consumer magazines, a lot of women's magazines. It's becoming harder and harder to tell stories like this in magazines like Glamour magazine, but that's what we did in 2010. Glamour decided, heard this incredible story. They have an annual awards called the Women of the Year Awards, where they honor all sorts of women that you would think that a magazine like Glamour would honor. They honor celebrities and fashion designers, but they have one award every year for grassroots humanitarian activists. So in 2010, a few months after this attack that we were talking about, Glamour asked me to try to figure out how to bring Dr. Abdi and her daughters to New York, which was no small feat, I might say. But it was the first time that you had ever been in New York, and so we got to know each other as we sort of navigated the visa process and figured out kind of the best way to bring them to the U.S. to honor them. So we met in November of 2010. Deco and I started talking months and months earlier. And what happened was the story got out then really in a different way in mainstream media that had never heard this story before, and there was such an interest in it. When I heard the story for the first time, I was amazed. But it really was when I met and spent time with the family that I thought, this is an incredible story of something that you could not even possibly imagine, right? 90,000 people in your backyard, it's beyond comprehension. But that said, it more than anything, as much as it is a story of unbelievable courage and war and destruction, it also is a story of mothers and daughters and relationships and something that feels so universal. And I felt like that was the thing that I wanted to bring out in a book like this. I wanted to try to help tell the story, which is of Somalia, which I was not familiar with, in a way that I felt like I could understand and share. So 2.5 years later, we have a book. So.
I want to add a little bit. She's trying to be very shy. She was very generous, and I think being in New York and meeting Sarah, it was different one. And I was like, "You're not from New York. Where you come from?" But that's the first question I asked.
Toledo, Ohio.
And I got it. And she said, "How long you have been here?" And she said, 10 years. I said, I'm glad you haven't changed. You haven't get the wave of New York, you know. She was very human. She was very passionate. She was... Okay. No, sorry, but I can't... it's beautiful city, by the way, but I cannot understand New Yorkers. So Sarah went in Nairobi, lived with us in 2 months, and she became part of the family. And while she was writing this story, she became passionate, and whatever she said, how you do this? One day she did it. She helped, she gave whatever she had, she put her time, she connected with a lot of people. She is also our public outreach, and she's working with us voluntarily. So we, as a Somalis, we have to be thankful to her. So for the work she's putting to the community also. Thank you. Not only for the book.
I want to thank Somali community and U.S. community for their help. I want to say that your help never be forgotten. We will tell our new generation, a young generation, who help us during the critical time, and they will understand they are future leaders in Somalia. We will never forget you. Thank you very much.
Is there any type of services for victims or for people that have been to those type of situations? Is there a psychiatrist or a therapist, or how do you handle with mental health? This is where I really want to go.
So the question is, I'm just repeating it, it's about mental health and mental health services in the camp, sort of what is available.
Do you have holidays coming? I have your ticket is ready for you. I think it's, yeah, I think we don't have any man. So when you are in Somalia, you are a physician, you are every physician you can imagine. You put the shot, it depends on which patient. You become neurosurgeon, pediatric, gynecologist, obstetric, surgery. It's fun. It's cool to be a Somali doctor. Walking in I mean, full of buckets of...
When did you become a gynecologist? How old were you?
I was 15,
right?
When I delivered first child. So obstetric, I was 15. So it's really a good platform for any physician to work with. You learn a lot. You become more. You dependent on your clinical skills in the mind. You don't depend on any labs. It's your judgment and your diagnosis how to save that person. So you have to learn to navigate with your mind and read more as much as you can and remember the symptoms. So because you don't have a lab, you don't have CT scan, you don't have a beautiful system set up, you don't have a specialist to consult with, you are yourself, you and your books are a specialist. So you go back to your books, sit down, read and learn from hardship. So and try to save as much as you can. Make sure you don't make any harm. So just save as much as you can.
So the question is for young Somalis who grew up in Minneapolis, how do they make a connection back home?
I don't know well English language. I want to speak with you Somali mother tongue. Okay. waxaan ku sheegay Soomaaliya hadii uu si iman karaan atir Soomaal hadda aniga waxaan ka imid Washington DC urur la yiraahdo Vital Voices ayaa wuxuu na siinayay award 7 magaalo oo dunida oo different continent ah waxaa ku jirtay gabar ka timid Palestine businessman oo Palestine ayaa isku darsamay lacag badan ay aruuriyeen banki lacag ka qaateen waxay dhisayeen magaalo cusub oo 40,000 qof ay degi karto Soomaalida iyada laga rabaa inay meel dhistaan inay meel degaan qofna u sameyn karamayso businessman ka Soomaaliyeed naxariista ma leh Soomaalida waqtigii ay baadiyaha deganeed oorbay rala jireen waxay ku gabi jireen oorkay u sheekeynayaan oorka ayay amaanayaan habeen saq dhaxay ay guureynayaan waxay dhihi jireen gadisley gargaar ma leh gadisley waxa la yiraahdaa af Soomaali businessman god aakhir gadoon ma leh qofka markii la dhigo ay dhimato mid dhinaca kale isu bedel kartaa gadisley gargaar ma leh god aakhir gadoon ma leh ee gundahada soo qaada garkaadana isoo saar guul ka ama gooyay saasay u gob jireen geelood marka taariikhii hore